UV resin. Hello, everyone. We're talking about UV resin. We're going to be making some beautiful jewelry with it in this spring day. We're working with flowers, groundbreaking, right? So we're going to be teaching you all about the basics of UV resin, all about the basics of working with dried flowers and making jewelry in a lot of different ways with flowers. So my name is Stephanie Manor. I am your teacher here today. Let's switch to the top-down camera so we can take a look at some of the projects we're going to be creating today. Move that up a little bit. So this is the little magic potion here, UV resin. It's available at Michael's in the jewelry making department. In fact, everything that we're working with today is available at Michael's in the jewelry making department. So we are going to be making some necklace pendants that look something like this. And I have a bunch of different options of those here. These 4 projects are made from a bezel. A bezel is just a frame, a metal jewelry frame, and we use that to design inside the frame. These projects over here were made with a mold, a silicone mold. Let me get that one close. This one has kind of like flower confetti. I love this earring. So we're going to show you how to do both using a bezel or using a mold. And these are the 2 most common ways that people craft with UV resin. So in this class, you're going to learn all the basics and the 2 most popular techniques. So let me move this out of the way and let's talk about supplies that you're going to need to get started. So first of all, on the bottom here, I have a silicone mat. So this is the extra large silicone mat. This protects your work surface and resin does not stick to it. Once resin hardens, it doesn't stick to it. So that's really important. Next, I have my UV resin. So this, as I said, available in the jewelry making department, several different sizes. This is a resin that cures in UV light. That's why it's called UV resin. There are lots of resins out there. There's like a 2-part resin. Sometimes that's called epoxy resin. That is where you have to take 2 things and mix them very, very precisely and mix them around. And this is not that. This resin pours directly out of the bottle, ready to use. So we're going to pour this directly into molds, directly into the bezels. And no mixing unless you want to mix some glitter or you want to mix some color into it. Next, I have some wood sticks here. I use this for mixing, for placing elements. And I have some basic jewelry tools. So these are going to come into play when we take what we've created and turn it into jewelry. So adding jump rings, adding ear hooks, connecting things. That's why you need those. The other thing you'll want to have is just a little pair of scissors. I use these to cut the flowers if I need to. And then we have some silicone molds. So these, you can see the Blue Moon Studio logo there. This one has a few different fun icons. This one just has some gem shapes. So we'll show you all about using these very flexible, clear molds. I have some silicone mixing cups. This is if I want to mix some color or mix some glitter into my resin. So you'll notice a trend. We have a lot of silicone here, silicone molds, silicone cups, silicone mat. As I said before, this is because once the resin cures, it will not stick to silicone. So cleanup is very, very easy. We also have a special kind of tape that's used with bezels. I'll get into that in a little bit. And we have a lot of dried flowers. This is one example of some flowers that you might see in store. Comes with a lot of different flowers in here and some greenery. And then I have some flowers here. And I know this doesn't look very pretty, but I want to show you how I store my flowers because you're probably not going to use all of these flowers in one sitting. So what I like to do is I like to save this acetate thing and then stack them up inside each other. And that's how I store my dried flowers. It keeps them very organized and protected. These are very, very delicate. So you want to make sure that they are protected when you're storing them. All right. So that's about it for supplies. I might bring in a few surprises here and there, but let's get started. And I want to get started with one of the easiest projects, and we are going to do that using this mold. So when you're using a mold, as I said, you go straight from the bottle into the mold. This product, as I said, needs no mixing. What shape should we do? I'm kind of feeling this shape. I'm just going to put a little bit of resin in there, tiny little bit. And the reason I'm putting it in there is because I'm going to add flowers, and those flowers need to have something to stick to. So I'm going to bring out these flowers and my wood stick. So I can dip the wood stick in a little bit of resin just to make it sticky. And that helps me pick this flower up and place it in there. And now I can look at the flower and decide what side I want to be the front. So I actually like this side better. So I'm going to turn this over and place this. So you'll notice that I'm placing the good side down or the right side down. And I'm gently pressing this. And the reason you do want to press it is because sometimes placing a larger element like a flower, it might trap some air under that. And we don't want any air bubbles. All right, so I'm just making sure that there's no air bubbles. And because this is clear, I can pick it up and look through the bottom of it and see what it looks like. I can see if there's an air bubble in there. I didn't see any air bubbles, so I think we're good to go. One supply that I didn't mention is I always keep some paper towels on the side because you constantly need to be wiping off your wood stick. All right, and that's it. We've placed our flower. Now I just want to fill it up to the top with more resin. So you can see me pouring it directly in. It's not creating any bubbles. And so I do want to fill it to the top of the mold. And then I always like to go through with my wood stick. I'm using the pointy end of my stick. I don't know, just kind of go around the edges. Sometimes you can have a little bit of a pucker there, just if the resin hasn't fully flowed. All right, and so now we're ready to bring in a supply that I realize I didn't mention. It's kind of important. It's the light. This is the UV light. So this light is a 9-watt UV lamp. You can see when I hit the button, it turns on. And I'm just going to situate that and turn that on. And while that's cooking, it's not cooking. I just like to think of it as cooking. It's actually curing. And what's happening is a chemical reaction is taking place inside there right now that is hardening the resin. And it's hardening it to a hard plastic glass-like finish. This is an example of an earring that we made in another class. And this is what it looks like. It's not really flexible, and it's clear, and it's hard, and it's very crystal clear. Inside this one, these little balls could be beads, but they're not beads. Does anybody know? Anybody guess what those are? These are actually little candy sprinkles. And it's one of the many things that you can use with resin. This class is focused on flowers, but I'm going to pepper in a little extra inspiration for you guys to use other things like beads. These are seed beads. We made a cute little heart hoop earring out of them. And so the possibilities are really endless in terms of what you can put inside the resin. All right, so this lamp went for a minute. It turned off automatically after a minute. So if I want to run it again, I just hit the button again, make sure that my mold is under there. You'll see some people in tutorials, they will, on the second minute, turn it over to kind of get the backside. Yes, you can do that, but since we're working with a very clear silicone mold, you really shouldn't need to do that. But I can tell you that this is already hard. Like if I just kind of push on the bottom, you can see like it's popping out of there. But I want to make sure it's fully cured. So I'm actually going to let that go for the rest of this minute. And that gives me a chance to talk to you about cure times. So when you are doing a project like I've done here with clear resin, it doesn't take that long. It's maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes to cure, and you can pop it right on the mold. If you're doing a project where you've added a lot of glitter, if you've added a lot of color, anything you're adding in the resin blocks these UV lights from making it all the way through. And so you need to cure it longer if you're using darker colors or a lot of stuff that you put in there. All right, so this is what we have. That went under there for 2 minutes. And when you pick it up, you'll notice that it is warm. It's a little warm here, and that is just from that chemical reaction that's taken place in there. But you'll see how easy it is to demold. You just kind of push it up, and it comes right out. And it's crystal clear. The facets are sparkling. And it has a little hole here at the top. That hole was created from this little silicone peg that's in each of the shapes. And so that hole gives you a place to hang it. And we'll show you how to do that a little bit later. But that very, very simply is the whole process of making a charm, a pendant, an earring, a ring out of UV resin and dried flowers. So that's how simple it is. But we're going to turn it up a notch, and we're going to show you lots of different design possibilities for working with flowers and resin. All right, so the first thing's done. We're going to show you how to turn this into a necklace or add it as a charm on a bracelet a little bit later. All right, first project done. So with this technique that you just learned, you can also do something that's like this. This is a pair of earrings. And we took one flower and cut that flower in half and then made 2 earrings with each half. So when you wear them, you have half and half. So this is just with this same technique, just a little bit of an extra that you can do with clear resin and a single flower. You can split it and make earrings. So I want to show you that. That same technique, just kind of jazzed up a little bit, are multiple flowers, different flowers that have been cut in half and then placed kind of vertically in that same shape. So just a different design option. I have lots more examples to show you, but I'm going to wait on those a little bit. Okay, so next we are going to talk about bezels. These are the bezels. As I said, these are just frames. They come in all different shapes. You can get like butterfly shape, flower shape. This is just a simple teardrop. When you use bezels, you do need to have this product. This is tape. This is a special tape. It's a polyester tape that's used with bezels. And this is the other reason why you want to have some scissors around. I'm going to cut the tape. So I have the sticky side of the tape up, so it's stuck to my thumb here. And I just want to press this on there and press it down. I really want to make sure that that tape is stuck on the bottom here. Because if it's not, we might get some oozing. Oozing, never a good thing. So we make sure that that's stuck. And then as the next step, we want to add a first very, very thin layer in here. So these steps that I'm doing, you would do for any bezel project that you're working on, whether the bezel is shaped or not. And regardless of what you're going to put in here later, we need to have a base layer. So I'm using my stick, just moving that resin so that it makes contact with the walls. That's going to give us a base to work on. And then one thing I also want to point out is that it's self-leveling. So if I pull through it, see how it kind of fixes itself? Takes a minute, but it does. All right, so first layer, I do want to cure that first layer. So that's going to give us kind of a blank canvas and make sure that we don't have any oozing. So for this kind of pre-cure step, I'm only going to go for 1 minute. 1 minute is enough on that layer. So while that's going, I invite you to ask any questions that you have about this process in the chat. So shout us out in the chat. If I see it, I'll try to answer it live, but I don't always see them. So we do have people that are going to be able to answer your question. So our first question that I'm seeing is from Karen. Thank you, Karen. Her question is, can you paint on UV resin? Absolutely. I do not have any examples of painting on UV resin, but I have done it before, and it's super cool because you can paint in layers and do a layer of resin in between each layer. So you can get more of a 3D effect with your painting. Works great. Acrylic paint, cheap acrylic paint works amazing. Also, acrylic paint markers like Posca work very, very well. Okay, so this went for a minute. I did see another question in the chat about bubbles, so we'll make sure to cover that. But as you can see, bubbling isn't really a problem here. With epoxy resin, bubbling is an issue because with epoxy resin, you have to mix two parts, and the mixing of it creates a ton of tiny, tiny little bubbles, like too small for you to pop. Not really a problem with UV resin, as you see here. All right, so this is prepped. This is ready to go. And we can have some fun with what we put in there. Now, the thing that I want you to realize while you're learning these two techniques are the differences in working with a mold versus working with a bezel. So working with a mold, the good side is down here. So when this pops out, this is the pretty side. And so the good side on molds is down. The good side on bezels is up. We design as we see it. So the first thing I want to put in this bezel is whatever's going to be in the background. So just keep that in mind when you're creating with it. It's a different kind of order of operations depending on a bezel or mold. So the first thing I want to do is a background. And so for this background, actually, I'm not going to do a background on this one. Let's save that to the last, to the next. I know that I want to use multiple color flowers on this one. So I'm going to put just a tiny little dot right there. That's just enough so that I have something that I can put on my wood stick. And I'm going to bring in this flower, which is like a lace flower. And I'm putting that down as my background. It takes up the most space. I want it to be behind like my other kind of like more focal flowers. All right. And then for focal flowers, I have some really pretty. Now I want to show you this just in case this happens to you. This is available, this little container of flowers is available in the mega filler kit. So it's in the UV resin section at Michael's. I have made a mistake and stored this on its side. It comes in like a package, stored it on its side. So some of my flowers did get a little bent. So just an FYI, when you are storing dried flowers, store them flat. Not that being bent is a huge issue, but I just wanted to point that out to you because I noticed that today and I thought, that's because I have been storing them upright. Be very careful while you're working with these. They are very, very delicate. They are very delicate. And I don't want you in there yet. Come on out. So much so that you may want to use some tweezers when working with these. These are not a necessity, but they do come in handy. Let me just straighten you out here a little bit. So I want to put this pink flower right about here. And again, I'm looking at the flower, deciding what looks better to me because I want the better side to be up. So to me, that's going to go right there. But I need a little dot of resin just to hold it in place. Tiny, tiny little bit. Oops, bumped you guys. Tiny, tiny little dot, just enough for me to pick this up, place it down. And I am going to attempt to uncurl this petal. Do that with another little drop that I put on the tape. I'm just dropping some resin behind it And then I'm going to, although it kind of looks, it kind of looks cute, this 3D effect that we're getting with a little curled petal. Kind of like it. But let's kind of glue you down. Are you gonna stay? Maybe not. Well, let's just go with the 3D look. But I'm not done yet because look at this beautiful turquoise flower. I want to add him right here. So we're making kind of like a flat floral arrangement. I'll take a little bit of this. Let me press that down. Sometimes you might need a tool in both hands because we want it to stay down. Okay, pretty. Let's zoom in a little bit if I can. Zoom with me. Zoom. No, it's not wanting to zoom. All right, let's just zoom it the old-fashioned way. Here we go. Now you can see it a little better. Okay, this is ready. This is ready to finish up, and I finish up by filling up the rest of the bezel. Again, straight from the bottle. I just want to fill it to the top. You see it kind of filling in, but I can help that with my wood stick. Just to have it fill, and I always like to go around the edges just to make sure we're good. And one more time, I'm just kind of gently pressing down on these flowers. I had just said that bubbles is not a problem. The bubbles that you get from mixing are not a problem with UV resin, but air bubbles are air bubbles. If I have air trapped under here, it's going to show later. All right. Now, before I cure this, I can do some other cool things. I can bring in some rhinestones and I could place a rhinestone. Let's just see. Let's see what it looks like. Place a rhinestone in the center of that pink flower. One. Do we like it? It's okay. I could add rhinestones all around here. I could add pearls. Really, the design possibilities are kind of endless. There's so many beautiful things that work so well with UV resin. But I'm going to leave it as it is. This is ready to cure. Bring my lamp in, turn it on, and I'm just going to move this to the side while that cures so that I can show you some options. All right, so here are some bezel designs. This is not a flower. This is a sticker. So just as easy as we put a dried flower in here, you can use a monogram sticker to make custom personalized gifts. And how easy is that? These are just glitter stickers that you get from Michael's in the stationery or a sticker aisle. Also in the sticker aisle, they have flower stickers. These are clear stickers that if you don't have dried flowers, you can just use a sticker that looks like a dried flower. That's kind of cool. If you don't have that, guess what? You can print out a picture of a flower and then cut it out and use that. Nobody's going to know. They're going to know. So here we go. That went for 1 minute. I am going to cure it for another minute. I just really want to make sure that it's all done. And then I can keep doing some show and tell. So stickers. Don't forget about stickers. Really cool. Here are some other bezel projects. This is another clear teardrop. You can see we use several different kinds of flowers and some greenery. I really like the greenery. There's another one that has some greenery. This triangle, one flower, one little piece of greenery. Okay, so this is still going. This is again with the greenery. Sometimes it just makes it look like a floral arrangement. I really like that. And then what we're going to do in the next project is something like this. So here, instead of having a clear project, we have added this is kind of a glittery white background. This is what it looks like on the back. So I'll show you how to do that. This makes the flowers pop by adding a background. All right, let's bring you up a little here. And this is what we have. So again, once this is done, it will be a little warm. This is slightly warm. All right. And so you just peel it off of the tape. You'll notice that tape is a lot stickier when you're peeling it off, but you can reuse this. That's what it looks like on the back. And this is what it looks like on the front. All right, so we have 2 projects down. Lots more fun stuff to go. I did see a question in the chat, but I missed it. It was something about curing layers. And even though I didn't see the whole question, let me just talk about layers. So in this project that I just did, I really only did 2 layers. There was the bottom layer to establish and stop the ooze. And then there was the top layer where I just filled it in. Working with layers and UV resin is always a plus because it allows you to really control the depth at which your elements are placed. There are deeper bezels. Let me show you this bezel. This is the bezel we just did. So there are kind of like extra deep bezels where depth placement is important. So you can kind of see if I go like this, you can see that the flowers in the background are beneath that kind of sunflowery looking one that's on top. And so it gives you that depth and it gives you just a different look. So layers are important for curing purposes and for design purposes. All right, let's do another project. Now this one, we're getting a little bit more intense. And we're going to do this butterfly here, but we're going to fancy it up a little bit. So I want to use some greenery in this one. So here's the little branch that I have. And I can just go in with scissors. And I like the way this, what I'm really looking for are 2 branches that look alike. Let's see, how about this one? Oh, there we go. And this one. Of course, I've gotten flower shrapnel everywhere, but I see where my 2 pieces are. I also want to use some purple flowers, so I'm actually going to open this package. While I'm doing this, don't forget that you can dry your own flowers. If you have a garden, you can dry your flowers in a book. There are different ways of doing it in a microwave, but you're going to have to Google how to do that because I don't want to, I've never actually done it in a microwave, so I want you to be careful. The main thing you want to keep in mind when selecting flowers for resin projects is that they are small. These are tiny, tiny, tiny. All right, so here's more of like the lacy type thing. I'm also going to cut that up. This has like a center with spokes going out around it. So if I cut out the center, And I'm left with this really pretty, oh, all you can see is my hand. Sorry about that. Ah, come here. There we go. All right, so we've got some purpley confetti. We have these flowers that we're going to be working with. All right, so I think we're ready to dig in. You know what? Let me go ahead and get another piece of that greenery. Might need these. So what I want to create here is a unique pattern in the butterfly wings. So I want it to be symmetrical. So whatever I put here, I also want to put here. Whatever I put here, I want to put here. So let's go in with just a little bit of clear resin. I'm going to use the clear. I'm just putting a tiny little dot in each section. And it's not going to be perfect. These are natural items. So probably the hardest part is just finding the ones that you want. But it does not have to be perfect. Keep that in mind. All right, so on that side, I'm doing the little greenery. On this larger top wings, I want to use flowers, and I'm going to use these pink flowers. And again, looking to see what side of the flower I like better. I think I like this one, so I'm putting the good side down. And this is a little bit big, but if we're gentle, I gently place it in there. It's okay if it bends. And I'm going to put this way. And again, just gently placing it down. This is more just to make sure that I didn't trap any air when I place the flower. Now I just want to make them so that they're perfectly symmetrical. Okay. All right, let's work with this little purple confetti. So I'm just going to place that in areas that don't have any flowers yet. And I see over here, I got a little piece of greenery. I'm just going to remove that. And I think to make this next part go smoothly, I'm just going to add a little more resin in each cavity. All right, and then we just carefully place. Don't really want to place any on top of these pink flowers because those are going to be blocked. Remember that since this is a mold, the good side is downwards. So the good side, we can't see at the moment. And then just keep adding these until you are happy with the result. And the great thing about UV resin is it's not like you're working with glue that is going to dry while you're working with it. So I don't need to rush here. I'm rushing for you guys because I want to get through the project. But when you are doing this yourself, you can take your time. You can leave and come back to it tomorrow or next week. And as long as you don't have any rays of sunshine hitting your work table, it will remain in its liquid form. And so you can continue to manipulate it until it's exactly the way that you want. And now I'm just kind of filling in any little areas where I want a purple little blossom to show. Almost there, maybe another one here. Okay, I'm gonna pick this up. I'm gonna look underneath, see if I like what I see. I like it. Let's get this guy out of the way though. Get out of there. Okay. All right, so now to your question about curing in layers, here is where I want to use layers because if I filled this up right now, it would just take all of those things and push them off to the edges. We don't want that. So I want to cure that in place. I want to lock it down. So I'm going to bring that in, put that under there, and let it cure for a minute just to lock in the all the little pieces that I so carefully placed. Okay, so while that is going, I'm going to show you some more projects with dried flowers. This is a keychain. This was made with a skull mold. And for all of the little kind of Day of the Dead um, elements, we use flowers. And you can see how beautiful that is. The back is just kind of plain, but so, so pretty. Love that. Both of these earrings were made with a hoop earring mold. This one has white and pink flowers. This one has yellow, a bunch of different colors in there. And that's made using a hoop mold. I'll show you the hoop mold. It makes two sizes, one this big size and this kind of smaller size. All right, so that went for a minute. And now we can fill the back of it with clear, or we can fill the back of it with a background color, like what I showed here. What do you guys think? Do we need a background color on this? It would look pretty with some white sparkles. Let's do it. Okay. So here I'm bringing in a silicone cup, and I'm going to pour resin directly into that. I don't need a ton because I just need to fill up this mold. And I have a tint here. These are tints that are made to work with UV resin. You don't need a lot of it, 1-2 drops at the most. Here I'm just going to do 2 drops. And I'm going to add some glitter. Here I have some white AB glitter. You can add as much as you want. If you want more space between the glitter flakes, add less. Let's mix that up. Okay, and wipe off your working stick and let's go ahead and pour it. I do want to make sure that I get resin all the way up at the top there, because that will go around that peg. And you can see how nice these bowls are to work with. You just squeeze them and it gives you a very precise pour. And then I want to go in and just make sure that the resin has reached all of the parts of the mold. And it looks like it has. I can see a couple bubbles here. I'm going to bring it closer. Can you see those? If you see this when you're working with it, the best thing to do is try to pop them or just scoop them out. But once you cure it, it's hard to say, but those bubbles are in there. So the time to deal with these little bubbles that you might get is before the cure. And these bubbles, they're air bubbles. When I mixed that in the silicone cup. I probably accidentally mixed some air in there. And this one's being stubborn. Keep trying to get it out and it's a survivor. Okay. All right, this is ready. Bring it in under the lamp. So the lamp, I didn't talk about it that much, but this is a 9-watt USB powered lamp. So this plugs into a USB of a laptop or your phone charger block. That is wonderful for curing resin. The other way you can cure resin is in the sunlight. So the UV rays that come from the sun, you just can't compare. You can't make a machine that's going to make those UV rays as pristine as they come from the sun. So on a sunny day, my favorite way of curing resin is just to put it out in the sun. And you may need 5 to 10 minutes. Even on a cloudy day, it will still cure the resin, but you might need 20 minutes or so, depending on where you are, what time of year, how much sun, and all of that. So curing in the sun, definitely a possibility if it is sunny and if you like to craft during the day. I recommend you give that a try. All right, so that went for 1 minute. I am going to pick it up and look underneath just because I want to see a preview, but I want to run this for more than a minute. I added glitter and I added tint to that. So you can see this opaque white color. I just want to make sure that it's cured all the way through. So I'm probably going to run it another minute on this side. Then I'm going to flip it over and run it another minute on that side. That gives me a chance to show you some other things that I have here and possibly also to get into making it into jewelry. So what haven't I showed you yet? I showed you this small hoop and this large hoop, but I didn't tell you what this large hoop is. And you can see it's got kind of like confetti pieces in there. Love this. I love this look so much. And does anyone want to guess what that is? I'll tell you here in a minute. So what we do whenever we mix in bowls like this, you generally have like a tiny little bit left. We just cure that in place and then we pop it out of the bowl and we're left with some ugly little thing like this. But it's perfect because all you have to do is cut this with scissors and you have your own filler, you have your own confetti. And then you can use this to put down inside of a new mold with clear resin and you will end up with something like this. So we love to use it all. We don't want to waste. All right, so that ran. I'm going to flip it over, do the back side just to make sure that that's done as I clean up my mess that I just made. All right, so that's going. And let's bring out our 2 projects from earlier. And I'll show you how to turn that into jewelry. So you are going to want a jump ring. Jump rings look a little something like this. And if you love jewelry making in general, you're going to want to get yourself a big bunch of these because you use them in almost every project. Jump rings are how we connect one thing to another. So in this case, we need to connect this pendant to a chain. So I do that by opening the jump ring. I did that really quickly, but I'll show you a little slower in the next one. So I attach that ring to this top ring, and then I can add in my chain. So I'm actually going to add in this chain that already has a pendant on it. And close the jump ring. I close that by bringing the ends together. And now that jump ring is closed. And now this is on my chain. And Michael sells these chain necklaces with the clasp already on them. It makes it really easy for you to focus on the fun part, which is making the pendant, I gotta say. All right, this one, I'm gonna do that a little slower so you can see what I'm doing. Here's a jump ring. We'll use a gold one this time. The jump ring has a break in the top. Probably pretty hard for you to see that, but I can hold one side with my fingers and one side with some jewelry pliers, and I bring one away from me and one toward me. And so now I've opened it, kind of like a spring. Open it, thread it through, and then you connect it to the thing, whether that thing is a bracelet or an ear wire, which we'll do an ear wire. So if you wanted to turn this into an earring, here's your ear wire. You connect that onto the jump ring and then close up the jump ring. And now we have an earring. And that's how simple it is. There are lots of different ear wires out there that get fancier, kidney shape, sort of large shape. But that is how simple it is to make an earring. Okay, so here is our butterfly. Are we ready for the reveal? I'm worried. Oh, it's cute. Look how cute that is. Oh my gosh. So, a couple things I want to show you. Can you kind of see this may happen when you're working with molds? Maybe you overfilled the mold a little bit, but it's got the, like a little extra blob on there. Let me show you how to deal with that. First thing you can do, sorry, camera, you can take some wire cutters and just kind of nip that off. It comes off very cleanly. If that's not working for you, or you don't have wire cutters, you can just go in with a nail file like this. If there are any rough edges, which I don't really, maybe over here there's a little roughness. You can kind of see a little texture there. Just go in with a nail file. Clean that up. But look how perfect that is. Now in here, if I bring it really close, I want to make sure that this hole is clear so I can go in. Oh, yeah, it's clear. I love this one. I never did this one before, and I absolutely adore this project. So let's connect it to something. Let's make another earring. So here's my ear wire, and I need a jump ring. Which is a little smaller jump ring. Now, if you don't want to get your fingers in there, you'll have to use a second set of pliers instead of your fingers. And you just hold them on opposite sides of each other. One moves toward you, one moves away from you. This goes through here, ear wire. Here we go. Very simple earring. I love that. This would look gorgeous on a charm bracelet too. Okay, do we have time for one more project? Maybe.
We have 10 minutes.
Awesome. Okay, let's do another project here. And I want to use our faceted shape here. And this is a mold. And so I'm planning out what I want to go in that mold. I know that I want to use a yellow flower. So here's my yellow flower. And then behind the yellow flower, I'm just going to put a tiny little dot right here because I like to use my wood stick, pick up the flowers. Okay, so I definitely want to use this. But what goes down first is the yellow flower. Oh, I forgot, sorry. Forgot to put some resin down. It won't stick unless you have something in there. There we go. This will be in the back of that flower. Just gently pushing down. Okay, now before we cure this, I just want to show you one more technique. I'm going to bring in that same kind of dirty cup, and I'm just going to add more resin to it. And I'm going to add some glitter. We're going to add some gold glitter this time. So there was a little bit of that white left in there. So now what we have is this kind of milky, glittery concoction, which I like. And now I'm going to pour this in. So this will be the background. And I can kind of move the mold to get that to go where I want. And here's the trick. So if you wanted that gold bit to be the background, you leave it as it is. But what I want to do is I want to push that glitter to the edges. So I just go in straight from the bottle and start dropping in the middle. And it's going to push it to the side so that that background now is going to look a little more like a border. And I just keep dropping it in the center until the mold is full. Just making sure that it got around the top, and let's cure it. So we went through how to use a mold, how to use a bezel, how to add a background. This is our background piece. And now we're doing how to make it kind of a glitter border. And so that is what is curing now. One last project that I haven't shown you yet is this. This is a bangle, and this is one of our older projects. We made this about 4 years ago, but it still looks amazing. It's got a ton of tiny little flower bits in it, and this comes from a mold, and that mold looks like this. And you fill it up, and that's how you can make a bangle. All right, last chance for any questions in the chat. I'm going to do this. We're going to reveal it, and then that's going to pretty much wrap this up. We do UV resin classes every month. So take a look at michaels.com for UV resin classes. We also do polymer clay jewelry classes. If you're interested in trying that out, give us a look. All right, so I'm just letting this go for another minute or so, because I really want to make sure that that is stored. And I can tap the top of it. You can hear that. It's cured on the top because that's the part that's closest to the light. Question in the chat, can I make a paperweight the same way? You can. I would caution you though, for large objects, especially large objects that are very deep, UV resin might not be the best resin for that project. And let me tell you why. UV resin is very, very much appropriate for small projects. That's why UV resin and jewelry are like a match made in heaven. UV resin works better on small things. On large things, you can use it, but it's going to use a lot of resin, and you want to make sure to cure in layers. All right, so here's the piece that we just made. And I can pop it out. And it leaves like a little kind of window in the middle. So you can see what you put in there. And my white flowers that I put in there are like kind of disappeared. but you get the idea. You can create sort of an easy border that way. All right, let's bring in all the projects that we made together. This one and this one. All right, so I hope we've inspired you to get out there and start creating with UV resin. Do come back and see us for our next class. Thank you so much, guys.